right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia. I want to welcome you. I want to welcome our viewers across the globe. I want to say thank you so much, gentlemen, for answering our call to be on tonight.
Thank you.
All right. This month, we are discussing the Liberian communities around the globe, and one of those communities is in Canada. You know, the world doesn't start and end with America. We have vibrant Liberian communities across the globe. So Francis J. Hina is the president of the Federation of Liberian Associations in Canada. Mr. Hina, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.
All right. Mr. Hina, you live right there in the city of London, in,
yes.
in the province of Ontario, Canada. We also have Mr. Fidel C.T. Moody from the UK. Mr. Moody, once again, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us, Dennis.
All right. Starting with Mr. Hina briefly, his area of expertise is in public administration and government.
Yes.
All right. He's currently employed by the municipality of Blue Water, that's in Zurich, the province of Ontario, Canada. He holds a Master of Public Administration from the Western University, London, Ontario, specialized in local government studies.
Yep.
He's married to Mrs. Alice Zoe Johnson Hina, and they have 4 children.
Yep.
Only 4.
Yeah, only 4.
All right. He got his surviving, his siblings, his sisters are all in Liberia. His mother is still alive. And again, once again, he's the president of the Federation of Liberian Association in Canada, FLAC for short. Mr. Hina, it's a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure being on the show today as well. I mean, yeah.
Go ahead. You got the floor.
No, I just want to congratulate you on this very remarkable achievement, bringing Liberians together across the globe. At least you know that you are exploring the talent and the wishes of Liberians across. We are all here. No one hand is just crossed, but we are doing everything we can possibly to affect change in Liberia in a positive way, working with whoever is at the helm of leadership of our country. So again, I want to say thank you for having me on today, and it's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Our next guest is from the United Kingdom, that's UK. You can call it England if you want to, or London. And from UK, we have Mr. Francis C.T. Moody. He's a young man. Areas of expertise is in marketing, public health, international development, land rights, and women's rights. He's currently the Secretary General of the organizations of the Union of Liberian Organizations in the UK, that's ULO-OK for short. Okay. He's currently he's a PhD candidate with Aberystwyth University. He's an author. He's a postgraduate researcher with both the Global Rural Project of Aberystwyth University as well as the Wales Institute of Social and Economic Research, Data and Methods. He's also a postgraduate fellow of the Royal Geographical Society with IBG and a member of the Center for Welsh Politics and Society, CWPS. As I said previously, he served as Secretary General of the Union of Liberian Organizations in the UK, as well as member of the Board of Advisors of the Global Health Next Generation Network. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree with honors in business management, a Master of Public Health in International Development, and currently he's doing his PhD. Mr. Moody, that's a big job for a young man.
Yeah, it's a blessing. That's how I see it. You know, it's a blessing.
And once again, welcome to the first in the series of Liberian communities around the globe. And we are glad to have these 2 big countries being represented, as the UK and Canada. All right, so let's get into it. Really, I'm excited about this series. As I said previously, the world doesn't begin and end with the US. We have other communities around here. So Mr. Moody, let's start by telling me about the Liberian communities in the UK. How things are there with the Liberians?
Well, as things stand, we're doing great. As always, with every Liberian organization, in the diaspora, there are a lot of things that we do well, and there are also a lot of things that we could do better. But we're grateful that, you know, Liberians are coordinating as best as possible here in the UK to work together, to exchange ideas, to support each other here, but to also do things back home that can impact our people and make a lasting difference in our country.
That's impressive. How did you guys, most Liberians, tell me about the population, how many Liberians over there, and how you guys, you know, most of you guys got there?
Well, officially, according to the last census, which was done, I think, in 2014, there's 3,000 Liberians spread across the UK. Almost half of that live in London, so about 1,300 Liberians live in London. For a lot of the Liberians who live in London, they came over earlier on, you know, in the 1980s. Some of them came to work with the Liberian embassy. Others came to study. And then obviously they were here when the war started, so they stayed and made London their home. For some of us, we left Liberia later on, so the population actually grew significantly in the 2000s. When most of us fled Liberia because of, obviously, you know, the fighting that was going on in Liberia. So a huge part of the population came, you know, in the 2000s, and some people have actually migrated to the UK from other parts of Europe as well. So places like Belgium and Holland and Norway. So the Liberians who lived in those places have kind of migrated to the UK. So that's increased the population here as well.
All right. And to those watching us via Facebook Live, we want you to participate in the conversation as well, because we all want to get acquainted and get into our different communities. Let me come to you, Mr. Hinam. Tell me about the population. Yes, that's a sweet case from your beautiful daughter. Tell me about your population over there and how most of you got over there.
I know. I need to go high somewhere. Well, it's great. The population in Canada, we are one of the youngest community on this side, and it's also a very great pleasure having my brother with me. You know, the UK and Canada will have so much in common. The Queen is the president of both countries. And so we are one of the new group of immigrants into Canada. So we are probably around about between 6,000 to 7,000 in population, spread all over the country. So we have communities all across Canada, especially the major cities, from Toronto all the way to Vancouver. I was just in Vancouver just last weekend because we're celebrating our national union. We came together 3 years ago and formed the Federation of Liberian Associations in Canada. So we have been rotating the conventions from city to city in order to get the group together and conscientize Liberians greatly. So the population, yes, like I said, we are between 6,000 to 7,000, with a heavy concentration around Edmonton and Vancouver, because where they had an oil-rich area. A lot of people have been working there. But my statistics prove that most Liberians here are eagerly engaged in going to school and betting out themselves for the possible engagement into the development of Liberia. And so we're working steadily on that. And yeah, and that's it. And everyone is very eager to see what good can be done from this end into Liberia. For many years, Liberians knew no other country in the world but the United States. And so it's a new thing that what we're trying to develop here. But they've been conscientized by our leadership, and we're getting them on board, and they are very happy and they're getting involved in what we're doing.
All right. So,
just one thing. We succeeded in getting the former president, the former president here 3 times. When we launched the bed net for mosquitoes, she was here. And we brought her back in, and we launched other organizations, even the library project for Liberia. We are in the process of constructing what you call the Learning Center. It will have the capacity to host Liberians, intellectuals, and Liberian businesses and communities alike. Our intention is to expand on education to make sure that we can have young Liberians. As you know, our population, 60% of Liberians are under the age of 30, very young people. And so we want to see how we can engage them. The sad thing is that 3 generations of our country have known nothing but violence. Right. Beginning from 1980 up to 2000, every child born in that era, all they saw was violence, disrespect. And so we are engaging them. And I personally always say that it is not their fault. It was a U-turn in society. But how can we engage them and conscientize them to know that they can be a better part of society and they'll be useful to society? So that's what we're engaging, and that's what we're doing. We are starting with those that we have here with us, because the culture of Liberia, or the culture of us in Africa, is totally different from the culture of the children we have here. Right. Where you discipline your child in the way that we do in Liberia, it's not easy for you to do it here. And so we are doing some incremental steps, organizing community activities that will be geared towards our Liberian culture, cultivating them into the system to make sure that they can be part of that. And we are we are doing that vigorously, yeah.
Good. So personally, when did you get in Canada, and when was the bulk or the influx of Liberians into Canada? Around what time?
I came to Canada about 15 years ago. I arrived here in 2005. And the city I'm in currently, when I moved to Canada, not just Liberians, but we used to walk, like when you walk the major street, every maybe 50 head counts, and then you see one Black person like me. Mm-hmm. But the demographic is changing gradually, and more Liberians came. In recent times, we have not had new Liberians coming to Canada, to London, in my city. But that's why the organization is chasing on every city. Almost every week, I get contacted by someone who has just moved to Canada or has been here for 3 years or been here for 1 month, and then we get connected to them and we incorporate it into the community.
Yep. Let me come to you, Mr. Hina. You are Secretary General of your organization, and that's the Union of Librarians in the UK. I went on your website and I read that the reason you came together is to form an organization that will promote the interests of all Liberians and associated Liberian organizations in the UK through organized activities, initiatives that will foster unity and empower Liberians in the UK. How well are you doing that or not doing that? How is that working?
Well, I think Mr. Hina will probably back me up on this. As with every Liberian organization in the diaspora, there are always challenges. There are a lot of things that you do well, and there are things that you try to do and you can't do them because of there are always people who are overcritical without providing solutions to the issues that we have. When we, this leadership came into the leadership role in 2015. So in March 2015, we had an election, and Mrs. Evelyn Duke-Deshiel was elected as president. And I came on as Secretary General with a team of 7 in total. And the first thing that we aimed to do was to give the organization a legal foothold, something that the organization didn't have since its formation in 2004. So we registered the organization as a charity in the UK in 2016. We also decided that the focus for us would be not just here with Liberians in the UK, but to try and turn our focus to Liberia. Because, if we're being honest, as on this panel and as Liberians in the diaspora, the opportunities that we have are way better than what our brothers and sisters in Liberia have. We've got better healthcare, we've got better access to employment and opportunities in terms of education and social enhancement, as individuals, whether it be the UK or Canada or the US or Australia or whatever. So Mrs. Deshiel and the team decided that, look, our focus have to be on Liberia. And when it comes to our engagement with Liberia, we've been very successful. So in 2015, we started the process of engaging with Liberia. By the end of 2016, we were there. We identified with 3 orphanages in and around Monrovia. some hospitals. So we went to Redemption Hospital, we went to a health center in New Georgia, we went to the Sony Wayne Clinic and to Foya Hospital as well, where we donated items to new mothers. So, baby clothes, toys, and things like those. And then we donated food items to the orphanages that we went with. And since then, we've continued to work with Liberia. So when, for example, in 2016, when President Sirleaf initiated the Liberia Diaspora Engagement Office in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Dishi was one of the first Liberian diaspora leaders to meet with them and to lay before them a platform to say, look, we're here, we've got people who are qualified, who are willing to help, who are willing to advise, even on a pro bono basis, to help Liberia. Because her belief and what we bought into as a team is that we can do whatever we do here. And most of the time, what you find is with Liberian organizations in the diaspora, we do a lot of partying. When it comes to 26 and Christmas and things like that, we party really hard, which is good because we need to come together and we need to celebrate our culture and we need to identify with each other because it gets lonely when you're spread across the country like that. But the place where we can have the most impact is in Liberia. And our focus have always been, since 2015, shifted from just working, doing things in the UK to helping people in Liberia in a very meaningful way. And obviously later on in the program, I'll talk about some of the projects we got coming up this year in Liberia as well.
So, what's about the culture? You talk about the music. So, we are Liberians. Wherever we go, our culture, we want to show. And most of these organizations will still want to portray our culture. How is our culture over there? You guys, during your festivities, you play Liberian music, you still eating fufu, kala, and talk to me about, and how are you passing that along to the next generation?
Well, thank you very much. That's a very nice question, and I one I really love to answer because one of the things that I have been involved with the organization in the background role for a very long time. So, for example, in 2012, we brought Friday the Cell Phone Man to the UK to grace our independence celebration. So he came, he performed. In 2015, we brought a Liberian artist from the US called Roland Ross, who came and performed as well. And in 2017, which was last year, we brought Kobasi, aka Drinks on Me, who came in and graced our occasion. So we always play Liberian music at all of our events. We encourage bringing Liberian artists over to engage with the community here. On the 1st of September this year, so just under a month from now, we're going to be having our third Visit Liberia Festival. So the Visit Liberia Festival has been organized by a Liberian artist called Sarah Gustenmar in collaboration with the Union of Liberian Organizations. And what we do is we showcase Liberian culture. So we have the cultural mask, we have Liberian attire, we have cultural dancers, we have Liberian food, we have everything to do with Liberia, including history lessons for people who want to. And we invite people from not just within the Liberian community, but people outside of our community so that they understand how rich our heritage and our culture is. So, we are definitely engaged with our Liberianness, and it's something that we promote in absolutely. You can even tell, and you mentioned this off air, the three of us wearing our Liberian design. So, it tells you a lot about what we do to promote Liberianness.
Yeah. All right. And that same question for you, Francis. And on top of that, stress how the young people are picking that up.
Oh, thank you for this question. It's very beautiful. Just like Tara said, what we are doing is, like I said from the beginning, our focus is on educating our young people and telling them where we come from. So when we have activities, we make sure there's a combination of their schoolmates, and in fact, it starts from us as families, because every now and then they have something called a potluck that they do to various schools, and the kids are asked to carry some food. We always make sure we make some Liberian food, like you mentioned, like kala, or a little bit of fufu and soup and those kind of things. So we take it to those kind of events. So we're not limiting it only to our Liberian culture. We spread it even down to the schools and stuff that we're doing it so that they can understand that we come from a community of people that have, different kind of culture that we're bringing to them. But we try to relate it. In fact, my wife is good at making the color, and there's something they cook here, they make here at a local fast food. One of those popular ones here is called the Tim Horton, and something they call a Timbit. There's a little bulb they make with a fritter, just like the color. So when my wife makes those ones, they have named it now already the Liberian Timbit, because that is easy. Yeah, so they now call it Liberian Timbit, and I can tell you, every time there's an occasion when we carry that fritter there, it's the first to finish. And when you talk about music, yes, in fact, quite recently when we were in Vancouver celebrating the 7th annual biannual convention, the 5th biannual convention in Vancouver, we had, after the game, there was Sierra Leone, there was a match between Sierra Leone and Liberia. And after that match, if you watch the Super Bowl in America, and that's the kind of festivity we had there. Right after the match, the field turned into a ball. And the music just hit. It was nothing but IE and Barrow and Lone Star. Just imagine, and the older folks, we can relate to that. And the kids will ask her, what is that? And then we have to explain to them, this is what we do when we're back home. And the meaning of those songs, what does it relate to? So we are teaching them as we go along. While it is true, they are in Western schools here and being taught the way things are here, and we try to add to them. Respect is one of the major things of our culture. You got to keep going on it. Yeah.
And just because you mentioned just because you mentioned your convention, I started to show some pictures from your convention.
Yeah, that's us standing there, and that's the Liberia Permanent Representative to the United Nations, the Honorable Louis Brown. He was our guest speaker, and that's the National Vice President African Share around me here. And that's what we're wearing for the celebration. Everyone is in a T-shirt with Liberia on it.
So talk to me about the purpose of that convention and what you got out of it. I see the First Lady right there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So what we do at the convention is, what I've done is have it rotational every year from one city to another. We started with Windsor when we finally launched the program. Then we moved to Hamilton. No, we moved to London in my city. Then we moved to Hamilton. And then we moved to Edmonton. Now we're in Vancouver this year. What happened was in 2014, when we had the Ebola outbreak in Liberia, there was this concern. Every community was going around having a march, raising little funds to support the program into Liberia. So we had the ambassador then, Jeremiah Shilonde, who was visiting us when we had the parade in Hamilton. And he said to us, why don't you form a national organization such as the one in Europe and even the one in the US, what they call ULO-OK. So we immediately went to work. We drafted a constitution, I was chair of that committee, and then we brought about all of the community leaders, because even in the absence of that, communities already had their leaders. So we brought all of them on board and presented the constitution to them about the unity. And they highly, supported that. And so we went ahead and we had a national election where I was elected the president, and then 2 other officials, secretary and treasurer. So ever since, we've been taking these institutions around to organize or encourage other communities that are far. Canada is a very huge country. From where I sit, to fly from there, if it's a direct flight from here to Vancouver, is anywhere between 5.5 hours to 6 hours.
Right.
In the same country. Now I have to transit. And as you go in the time zone change, my first transit city left my city one hour behind. When I got to Vancouver, my city was now 3 hours behind because I was very close to Seattle. In fact, the hotel I was stopping, you can just see Seattle like across the river.
Okay. So
this has been the project, moving this community from one spot to spread it around to get Liberians involved. Because for some of us, our discipline requires us involving people. The more I see Liberians involved in their own life, in their own management, what happened is that I can see our country being liberated, into progress and development. Right. Like I said to you, my area of specialization is in local government. And I can tell you, democracy in the Western world is strong and prosperous because of local governance.
Right. And we'll stress that. I first want you to talk about poutines. You like eating that in Canada?
Yeah, pudding is. Have you had pudding before?
No, what I want to know, because sometimes we Liberians, we stick to ourselves and we don't get acculturated also in the culture. We can benefit us. So no, someone on my in focus on Liberia grew up in Canada.
Yeah.
So she enjoyed poutines. I want to know if you like that too.
In fact, I love poutine. What we've done with poutine, we modified poutine. You know, when I was coming to Canada, and when I got here, I saw this place very cold. To me, I would say this is where they actually eat spicy food. But I realized they don't. So what we've done, the gravy they put on the poutine, because that's a fried potato that they put a gravy on it. We have changed the flavor of that gravy and put a little bit of alligator pepper inside from Liberia. So now it has a very beautiful taste. It is still poutine. It just made a different faction and it's sweet. In fact, when we bring the French over to taste the poutine, they think we made it in Liberia. We say, no, we just modified what you had here. And so it's a great thing to be around. Great. Even the barbecue, we changed the flavor of the barbecue. We season our barbecue, you know that very well. Mm-hmm. We want our meat done, not a single blood in it, and we leave it juicy as well. So a lot of changes, and we share with them, and they are excited. I go to Canadian homes, and we get there, they say they're having barbecue. I take over the barbecue, and I make the barbecue, and they wonder where I come from. I say, well, yeah.
And you tell them we make this from mommy.
Yeah, we share the food.
Okay. We start getting questions from Facebook already. So, okay. Mr. Booty, let me come to you. Dave Jar is asking, what are your rough assessment of the living statuses of Liberians living in your respective countries? Are there programs that address the needs of Liberians wherever you are, you know, so that there is your focus on the father's land? What are some of those programs? Let me start with you, Mr. Booty.
That's a very good question. Thanks, Dave. Well, for ULO-OK, what we try and do is we provide a platform where Liberians can engage based on the needs that they have. So different people have different needs, and we have to incorporate the different needs. So, for example, someone might have a need for support in terms of educational, their educational journey. So we have people within the organization that they can speak with, who can guide their efforts in terms of what schools to access, how to access these schools, what opportunities are there in terms of career opportunities and things like that. So in terms of the organization and how we do, it's not a reactive stance that we take. It's more of a proactive but silent proactive, where we say, look, here's the opportunity. You come and talk to us when you need us, and then we can provide opportunities that you need in terms of advice and guidance in pushing. Because look, at the end of the day, one of the things that we try and do is we try and meet people at the point where they need us to meet them. Because obviously we live in the West, and as much as we are Liberians, you can't do too much before people see you as being meddling into their personal affairs. So we always provide the opportunities to say, look, we're here. If you need advice on A, B, or C, you can come and talk to us, and we will provide this information for you. But then we don't push people to come and talk to us, because at the end of the day, we have to respect the privacy of the person that we're talking to. So in response to the question is, we're here, we provide a lot of support in terms of career advice, in terms of family support, and even to the point where I have personally been involved, Mrs. Tishi has personally been involved as president of the union, where we supported Liberians who've had immigration issues, like Liberians who need to get lawyers. We've got a lawyer that we have who is not retained by the organization, but who we can refer people to from the organization, and they get favorable rates. And not only that, but they get treated in a different way to how their other clients get treated. And I'm proud to say that all of the instances where we've been involved, we've had 100% success rates in terms of making sure that these individuals' cases are dealt with in a manner that respects the individual's privacy, but also help them to get what they want to get.
Yeah. So roughly, how are Liberians doing? Where are some of the areas most Liberians work in? What is their standard of living? How do they earn a living, and where are they doing? Are we having our young people there too? Are they having trouble with the law and things like that? How are they doing?
That is inevitable. I think any culture, any society you find yourself in, young people will have issues with the law. Some of them will get past without being caught. Others will get caught. And I'll give you a situation. I used to be president of one of the local organizations, because obviously, like the Federation in Canada, ULO-OK is the umbrella organization, like ULA. We oversee all the Liberian organizations here. So I was president of one of the local organizations, and we had a situation where a young Liberian person had a run-in with the law, and a situation arose. The person would have been removed from the UK, and we got involved. We wrote a letter to the judge and said, look, as a community, we believe that we can do as much as we could have done. We were asking you to give us a second chance. This time, we will be personally involved as a community to support this individual, to make sure that this individual does not go back and do the things that they did in the past that led to that situation. So that's one example. In terms of work, in terms of what Liberians do, that is a question that is quite difficult to answer because of how how spread across the UK we are. Having said that, I can say to you that those who interact with the union on a regular basis, we have Liberians who are medical doctors. So we've got the Liberian Medical Association here, and the Medical Association was very instrumental in our Ebola support for Liberia in terms of the fundraising, in terms of the equipment that we were collecting to send to Liberia. So the Medical Association, we've got at least 50 Liberian medical professionals in the UK who are part of the Liberian Medical Association. I know of Liberians who are engineers, chemical as well as mechanical engineers. I know a computer engineer, a Liberian who's a computer engineer who lives in the city of Sheffield, where I used to live before. I myself, I'm in academics. The president of the union works with in a housing organization. We've got a Liberian businesswoman who is the vice president of our organization, so she owns her own business here, and she's a microbiologist. In her 9-to-5 job, but she also owns her personal business that imports smoked fish. In Liberian people would like our smoked fish, our dry rice, so she imports smoked fish into the UK for us to buy. So from that I can assume that Liberians are caught across every aspect or every spectrum of career opportunities across the UK. In terms of livelihoods, in terms of how people are doing on a general scale, I would, proudly say that Liberians here are doing quite well. There's very, very limited number of us, I would say less than 1% who are not in employment at this particular moment in time. So most Liberians that I speak to, most Liberians that I know and that I interact with are working. Just last weekend, I was in Northampton, in another town, attending graduation ceremonies. There were 3 young Liberian women who had just graduated and a Liberian guy, and the coming together was huge because there were people from London, from Wales, and from all parts of the country. So on the whole, I think Liberians are doing really, really well in the UK.
Okay. If you're just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing Liberian communities around the globe. With me tonight, I have the Secretary of the Union of Liberian Organizations in the UK. That's Mr. Fidel C.T. Moody. He's a PhD candidate. I also have the Association of the Federation of Liberian Associations in Canada, represented by Mr. Francis J. Hina. So, like I asked Mr. Hina about the food, Moody, do you enjoy the England's of fish and chip?
I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of fish and chips. I like my toboggi business too much.
I know.
I tend to stick with what I know. Having said that, we live in a very cosmopolitan country, the UK, especially in London, where you have absolutely every nationality represented. And some of us tend to be friends with absolutely everyone. So I've got a lot of friends from Nigeria, so I eat the egusi and all of that. I've got a lot of friends from Sierra Leone, so we eat the cassava leaf with the okra in it. So I'm not a huge fan of the fish and chips. To be honest, I've had it, but I'm not a huge fan of it because it just doesn't do it for me. But we tend to stick more to Liberian food. So when I visit Liberian homes, I always have either toboggi. When people ask me what you want to eat, I make sure you get my toboggi. Because that's what I like. And
right.
People have a lot of good African food.
I'm showing some pictures from ULO-OK. Tell me about those events going on right there.
Well, most of the pictures you're seeing are pictures that we've collected over the years from our independence celebrations. So some of them, so the one on now is from the one we had this year. And we've got the lady in the middle is from, she's the charge d'affaires here. Mrs. DeSheila is the lady in the blue top. And that's her son. That's me. They're trying to eat something next to her. But we are quite, as a union. This one is from 2016 in Sheffield, and this one is from this year. So we had members of the embassy. We've got the Ahmadiyya Muslim community as well. There's been a partner of the Liberian organization here. And we have fun, as all Liberians usually do. I'll tell you a story. There was in 2009. I was traveling back home to Liberia in December, and we went through Morocco because we were going on Air Morocco. And when we landed, I was traveling with Mrs. DeSheila and her brother from the States. And when we got to the airport, we realized that there were other Liberians there. So before you could know, one or two people had gone to the gift shop and got one or two bottles of whatever we got. And we started playing music right in the people terminal and started dancing, and enjoying ourselves. And that's the Liberian way. That's how we do it. We have fun absolutely everywhere we find ourselves. And, that's just how we do. We don't know how to feel bad.
That's good. Let's go back to Facebook. There's Mr. Hinam. Thomas Awadi is asking about the flood victims in Monrovia. In Monrovia and its environs. And I want to know if your organization or Mr. Booty's organization is doing anything about helping the recent flood victims in Liberia.
Well, that's a good question. And the problem we have in Canada is we have a lot of resources and we can help with any situation like we did in the case of Ebola. We are diplomatically landlocked. That is one problem we're faced with. You send one barrel to Monrovia, even to assist people, it's going to be there forever. You can't get it clear out. So it's disheartening. So what we do sometimes when we get some of these things collected, right now we have a lot of items collected. We're looking for the NGO that is operating in Liberia on that level, that we can just donate it to them and then they will take it to Liberia. What are the beneficiaries going to get it or what's going to happen to it? We don't know because we're not having a direct link there. It's sad for us in Canada. There is one person who becomes an ambassador of Liberia to the United States, Canada, and Mexico. That's just sad. We have volunteered to tell the Liberian government upon their own request from Honor Madam Sally to open an honorary consulate here. They don't want to be responsible for anything, but rather if we issue visa on behalf of Liberia, we should give the money to them. We said, that's no problem. Every cent you want, we'll give it to you. But at least give us some recognition. I don't know if the Liberian government was to appoint me as ambassador extraordinary plenipotentiary for the United States, Canada, and Mexico, whether I will go back to ask them before I can open the office in Canada or open the office in Mexico. I'm still confused on the situation. I thought as ambassador accredited to these three countries, I would come here and meet the foreign minister and just open the office and say, this is going to be my location, and then perform diplomatic matters here. But if we have to go back to the foreign ministry to ask just to establish the honorary consulate here, it's become so overwhelming and so disturbing. I mean, I don't even know how to term it. I've been running behind this thing for the past 3 years, even since the Ebola crisis started. We can't get it off the floor. And the dilemma is by the time you even get someone to volunteer, when you get to Liberia, the story changes to our Liberian story. This is not Asia or somewhere where somebody wants to volunteer you for free, then you got to get them cold water before they can sign the paper. This is not, I'm saying this live so that and people who are listening don't know what we're going through. We work the papers from the desk of the president all the way to the implementing president to just come here and commission the person. Because I feel whoever is here as an ambassador, if you know your job, you will not go back to Monrovia to say, give me permission to put an honorary consulate there. Because you already commissioned as an ambassador to the three countries. I will open my office here, I will open the office in Mexico and just make sure they are properly adhering to the laws. So that's the problem we are faced with, providing adequate assistance to disasters and stuff when we hear from Liberia. So individuals even want to do it, it's difficult. Unless we send change to Western Union or MoneyGram, that's the only way they can receive it. Other than that, when it comes to material things to send it, it's very, very difficult. Very difficult. You know, the relationship between Liberia and Canada has never been there before. In the US, I think it's easy. You can easily send things. So I don't know how you claim from the port, but it's easy to get things moving between here and there. That's one of the dilemmas we're faced with in Canada. It's very difficult. We are willing. We have collected things. It's here. The women in Kitchener, when they collect things, they rather carry to the Goodwill. My basement is full. We closed up my case wall, closed the eye wall, and it no longer fit me. I don't need it. Why keep it in the basement when we can send it to people who need it? But there's no way to do it. We have no means to communicate with Liberia diplomatically. They sideline us.
Mr. Moody, what's your experience, especially with the flood victims and things like that?
Well, what we have right now is we've got a Liberian here called Max Pacquiao, who lives in Wales, and he has started the process of, because we the Union of Liberian Organization is an umbrella organization. We support Liberians. So he started the fundraising and raising awareness of the flood victims in Liberia. So we are working along with him to see how we can support the efforts that he started. The problem that we have is the Disaster Management Agency in Liberia is not providing a lot of information in terms of how support can be given. Also, when support is gathered, and we're happy to give this support, the coordination and what Mr. Hina was referring to is ensuring. The most important thing is not gathering, because like Mr. Hina said, we all, and I mentioned this earlier, we're very blessed, those of us living in diaspora. We have things that we can share with people. We can collect things, at the click of a finger. I'm sure Mr. Hina on his own, just within his group of friends that he can get 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 boxes ready. But then when you get these things to Liberia, how do we know that they're going to get to the people that they need to get to? Yeah. What we did when we did the Ebola outreach, we knew someone from the UK who was in Liberia at the time, and he was our link in the country. So we could send things directly to him, and we trusted him to deliver those items to the people that needed them. So Telewinian Hospital benefited, for example. Phoebe Hospital benefited, Redemption Hospital benefited. And we know, because we spoke with the heads of these hospitals, there were videos made, there were pictures taken, we could see the outcome because we had this individual that we trusted. Right now, the Liberia Disaster Management Agency, which was established by President Sirleaf, that should be coordinating efforts, not just within Liberia, but within the diaspora as well. Yeah. And and it's without going too deep into politics, the president said when he was inaugurated that, look, I am going to work with the diaspora. And we know that President Sirleaf already created the diaspora office at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, these individuals should be contacting diaspora organizations, tapping into the resources that we have. So when these things happen, they can then make arrangements to say, look, if you send barrels to Liberia, we will make sure they get clear duty free. We will make sure they get delivered because, Mr. Ja, as you are aware, living in the US, even if your neighbor gives you a jeans trousers to send to somewhere, they want to see proof that you've actually given that thing to whoever you say you were going to give it to. They don't just want to give you things and then that's it. No, you have to account to these people. You have to account to people that I took your pens and I give it to John Brown. Here's the evidence that I gave to John Brown. Yeah. And if we're not getting that coordinating effort from Liberia, it's difficult. But we've started, like I said, we've started the awareness. We started, collecting things here. Is honestly, and I always try to be honest. We do not know how we're going to get those things to Liberia and how we're going to ensure, which is the very important thing that Mr. Hina mentioned, that the people who need them are going to get them. That is our problem at the moment. That's true.
If you are just joining us, this is Liberian Communities Around the Globe. My guest, Mr. Fidel C.T. Moody, is from the UK and representing the organization there. That's the Union of Librarians in the UK. And also from Canada, Canada, that's Mr. Francis J. Hina. He's representing the Federation of Librarians Association in Canada. You guys are being in those places. Can you sing the national anthem or you just all by yourself? I remember in the US when they come to the last part, then everybody starts singing, but in the middle we all quiet. But the broader question is how well are Liberians in this country getting into the national politics, are there Liberians vying to become senator, representatives, city mayors, on the school board, in the local communities of this organization? Because I believe if we form part of these people, then we can grab whatever we can. We can have influence to talk to them, talk to some authorities, so that we can go back home and develop our country. I read from one novel, this guy was sending his son to the developer and saying, go to the white man world, learn their good things, but not their vices. So how well are we getting into the local politics so that we can use that to impact our countries? Let me start with you, Mr. Hina.
Thank you, Mr. Ja. Definitely, that is, in fact, just to start with, all of our functions now, we sing both anthems. We sing the Canadian national anthem and we sing the Liberian national anthem to all of our functions, because our kids are going to Canadian schools and they sing the Canadian national anthem. For us in Canada, in some areas, they even sing both in English and French. But when we move to our gathering, in Liberian gathering, we sing both the Canadian and the Liberian national anthem. So the children know where their parents come from, and they always blend our culture. In fact, our kids will tease us at home the way we pronounce things when we're in the house in the Liberian way, and take a ya, and all those things. They will laugh at us with it. But the thing is, they are mindful and they understand that that's what we do, And so we are getting involved. Like personally, I'm involved into local politics very much. My graduate degree, my undergrad degree was in political science, and so I'm very deeply involved with the political movement. In fact, my job right now, I'm the manager for records management and at the same time the election assistant at the municipality that I work in. So I'm conducting local government elections. So I don't know whether the next time I'll be running for any local office is possible, but I'm not saying that right now. But yes, we are getting involved and greatly involved. If we don't get too deep, our case will get very deep. Like my children do both French and English, and that is a roadmap to get into the political league. You asked a body of question, and I wanted to throw light on that about the educational system and the living condition of people. There's something very significant that most of us come to Western country, we don't understand it. In Canada, in the US, and in UK, children go to school based on their age. At 4 years old in Canada, they should be now starting school. They should be in the kindergarten. At 5 years old, they should be like in grade 1 and going on and on and on. In Liberia, we go to school by the time you enter school, it's not by your age. So if you're 5 years old or 10 years old, you went to school, and by Western standard, you're supposed to be in grade 5, they will put you in ABC, like how we call it.
Right.
And so we had that challenge when we came to Canada. And what we did, we created a system, and we did not limit it only to Liberian children. So we have something called the homework club. Kids come from Africa, from the refugee camp. Some had never sat in classroom, but they are age 10, and they send them to grade 5. They've never written before.
Right.
So that homework club has been very helpful to both Liberian children from Sudan, from Somalia, and they benefit because we opened that project to everyone. But I can tell you for sure, most of the kids that have been benefiting largely are children other than Liberian children coming into the program. Some of them have graduated today, some are nurses, some are going to doing their graduate studies and all so on and so on. But gradually, Liberians are picking it up and they are taking advantage of that, and they also, getting into that learning process. So they're no longer afraid to go to school because the help is there to help them to be afforded when they need it. And you're asking about jobs. Yes, we help a lot. In fact, I volunteer a lot at the job workshops to make sure that people searching for a job, their skill will brighten. Because one simple thing, like even writing a resume in the Western world is completely different. Everything here is marketing. And Moody will tell you, you have to sell yourself. Right. In Liberia, we have the parable that say, the chicken can't say I'm sweet Because if you do that, they will kill you and eat you. But here, buddy, you got to say I'm sweet. You have to say, you have to polish what you can do and demonstrate it in order to get a job.
We say experience can fight for justice, so you go sit down.
Yeah, so so we make sure we instill that into them. When you go to the job, demonstrate it. The things people we took for granted in Liberia, it is very important here. To be a cleaner, they call the name janitor. You have to have that janitorial skill. Why? Because you are using chemicals, you are dealing with all kinds of things that you're supposed to be mindful of before you can work on it. How can we transform the mind of the people here so that that transformation can affect the people in Liberia is what we are doing. Because we believe when that discipline is instilled in our brothers and sisters that are here, my message to them every day is you are the fortunate one. You are the Jeremiah of the day that is going to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and that's the wall of Liberia. But how can the builder build a wall when they're not trained? So we are focusing on training our people. We settle dispute, minor ones, whatever they're going through, we'll make sure we take care of that. So you asked my brother that question. I just wanted to tell you that that is on our agenda. And that's why we invite them into meetings. We bring them to communities. We want people to learn responsibility to be able to perform it as we move forward.
No, that's a good one. Even right here locally, in the Liberian Association in Metro Atlanta, we have a cultural segment. And so we call someone, sometimes you have someone who will teach us how to do milk candy. Or tell a story or create a food so that we can pass on those cultural things to the next generation. But let me come to you, Mr. Moody. Are you or anybody there running for a political office? Or the same question, how are we doing when it comes to getting involved in the local politics?
Well, I know of one Liberian who is a local councillor in London. And she has been a councillor for, she's with the Labour Party and has been a councillor for over, I think, about 10 years now. And that's the one person I know of. I do not know of many Liberians who are venturing into politics here. I think most of the Liberians who I know that get involved in anything political is usually tied to the going on in Liberia in terms of how things are happening back home and things like that. But I know of one person. And she has done, she's a local councillor with Melton, the borough of Melton in London, Mrs. Carolyn Cooper Mabia, I think she's called. And she's with the Labour Party, yeah.
Then we'll come to politics in Liberia because I want to know the general view of Liberians when they come to events in Liberia. But Mr. Moody, you have your man here from Who Watch, Randall Bala. He was at your event. He said he wants to congratulate ULO-OK for the leadership provided for Liberians in the UK. However, and when Liberians say, however, you know something bad coming. However, you want to ask to take the mobilization campaign of the Independence Day to a different level. He said the indoor program held in London, he realized was poorly attended compared to the outdoor. Why was that?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. And the thing is, with a lot of the things that we do as a community organization or as community organizations across the world, when you do the good things, people don't praise you as much. As soon as it goes bad once, then it becomes an issue. In 2015, 2016, and 2017, we had very well attended independence celebrations. This year, there were a couple of things that didn't go, the way we wanted them. So first of all, we were hosting it in London. London is a very busy city. Getting a venue in London is very difficult. So we usually have the independence celebration after the day. So it will be on the weekend after the 26th itself. This year, because we couldn't get a hall on that day, we had to have it the weekend before. So that kind of messed up a lot of people's plans and expectations. That was one reason. The second reason is the venue that we found was a bit outside of a lot of people's reach. So a lot of people who lived in and around the London area had to, you're talking about, London is a city where you can travel for about 2 hours just to get from one end to the other. You know, so for some people moving from one end, you know, from the west end going to the east end where the event was, that proved very difficult, and that just made it really, you know, hard for people to turn up. However, the park that he mentioned, where we had the celebrations in the park, is somewhere that we've had celebrations since the 1990s. You know, those who were here before had always gone to the same park to have their event. So people in London and other places were quite aware of, well, you didn't even need to give them directions. They knew exactly how to get there. And obviously that helped when people were getting to events. And those are the two reasons, you know. One, you know, it was held the weekend before, and two, you know, the venue was very far for a lot of people. And you know, obviously, you know, these things have to happen in life. You know, for me, I'm someone who welcome difficult situations, and that was a difficult situation. We will hopefully learn from it. But if you take it in the context of the full 26 celebrations that we've had, 3 were very, very good. And we've had 1 that was slightly poorly attended. We just have to take it. You can't be that lucky all the time.
Right. Okay. So we take the good and the bad. And welcome again, everyone, to our Liberian communities around the globe. We see I got someone watching from Beijing. That's, let me see.
That's China.
Martin watching from, and hopefully we can have the Liberian community from China on as well. I see some colleagues watching from the US here, Bala from London, and Makonje. We see Sumo from Missouri. Welcome to all of you. Let's go to Liberian. There have been a change of leadership in Liberia. Mr. Moody, I look you up. You are very much vocal on Liberian politics. You've written a couple of articles before and after the elections. So, but putting that aside, what's the general feelings of Liberians in the UK when it comes to events, especially political events in Liberia?
Well, there's a couple of things. I think as an organization, you know, the union, when we came into leadership in 2015. We made it an understanding that, look, as the union, we were not going to get involved in politics, you know, as the union of Liberian organizations. However, individuals were free to do whatever they wanted to do. You know, if I want to talk about my personal opinion, as long as I made it clear that those were my personal opinions, that was fine. Liberians on the whole, I think is mixed when you look at how people are judging the situation in Liberia. I think a lot of us here hoped that the elections would have gone one way. At the same time, a lot of people hoped that it went the way that it went. So there's almost an even split in terms of people's views on who was elected. The one thing that is uniform amongst all Liberians here in the UK is that it doesn't matter who's in power. We want Liberia to succeed, because when Liberia succeeds, we all succeed. And irrespective of whether you supported the candidates that ran and won or whether you didn't, at the end of the day, we have a common denominator, like we always say, and that common denominator is Liberia. And all of us, in every Liberian you speak to will tell you, look, I don't agree with what happened, but I want the country to go forward. So we have to pray and hope that this leadership will do the right things in the interest of the Liberian people.
All right, Mr. Hine, same question for you.
Well, just as we are diversifying Liberia, so was the opinion here or the view of many Liberians here, including myself. Some of us hope the election would have gone the other way around. We were basing on expertise, on experience, on how someone who is able to manage an institution. Because the leadership crisis in the world, leaders in political offices should be good managers. Good managers will make very. Just like the brother said, we are paying very close attention to the situation in Liberia. Now that it was the wishes of the people, and I judge it both ways. I realize that many of us who are classified to be in the educated class, we've been considered as those who fill the country. And you cannot deny that, because if we went to Liberia, all of us sitting here working, we know the laws and things around here, we should follow it. And we go to Liberia and take over leadership and don't follow it, the old people, the young people, or the people living in Liberia begin to wonder what kind of people we are. I had discussion with Julie Bryan when he was interim president. I had discussion with President Salif several times, and I said to her, Madam President, there's something brewing in this country, and if we don't take care of it, it's going to haunt us. Whether it's going to be another war or even the democratic process, they're going to whip us into it. And I was right. Because we don't pay attention to the marginalized people in our society. Brother, tell me, how can I be working with those people that can hardly buy a bag of rice, and then I'm making $10,000 or $15,000 because I'm a representative in the House and put it in my pocket? If my conscience should be beating me, I'm not even talking about the senators or what they get, what they pay themselves with, looking at the resources we have in that country. So those are the ills that defeated the intellectual class from power. Now, my only appeal to the current leadership is that I won't say bring those people back, but I will let them discard.
I think it's President.
Okay, Mr. Hina, can you repeat that?
He's a member of a team, and he knows how team plays. So this is where he needs to come in. He needs to start and put in people with the potential to be able to do the work. I said it to him or through his emissaries, and I continue to say it. I want to do what is good for Liberia when I'm in leadership, or when my choice would have been in leadership. I want to do exactly the same thing, even with him in power, because I'm not doing it for him as an individual. I'm doing it for the country. Then that's why we continue to carry on our projects like we carry on. So some people are divided here, but we were heavily relying on another camp as was supposed to go. But it didn't work that way. Do we give up? No. We want to make sure that he gives us the opportunity to be a part of the political process in the transformation of our country. I've learned so much, and I'm working here, and I want to make sure that which I've learned and that can be transferred to Liberia, I want that opportunity. I want you to open that door, that gateway that we can all get involved. You don't have to pay us, but you just have to recognize the effort and give us that leeway to be able to do it so we can go through the country. So we're sitting here, there are different groups, and now someone would jokingly tell me, yeah, we got a crew government, but I don't know whether the D12 or Triangle would have, want a situation like this here. Whatever it may be, we let us rally our hands around to see how we can help the young man, but he has to open his heart to say, I need this help. And we can give that help so that we can build Liberia. Destroying Liberia or destruction statements and things, it's not going to help us. Right. Because some of us here, we pass the middle. By the time we start retiring, we want to be in Liberia. Right. I want to be on my farm, fishing there and making sure that the system is working properly. So political view on Liberia, the country is there. There's no more political party at the moment until 6 years from now when we'll go for election. So right now, I want us to do everything we can to help make the government to be successful and Liberian people live better. But the president must give us the chance. The leadership must give us a chance to participate.
Specifically, what chance do you want and how should that be done?
Well, I mentioned one to you. I wish there's somebody close to the president will pay attention. For us here in Canada, we made so much friends that can move out to start development in Liberia in very different sectors, whether in transportation, whether in industry, in the electricity, or whatever it is that they want to do there. But they have like kept us out of the political process just by not recognizing our diplomatic effort here. If in recent generations, the only world leader that have opened the door of Liberia to the Western world is the Prime Minister of Canada. Since 1961, when Queen Elizabeth slept in Monrovia, the only other world leader that have gone to Monrovia in recent time and slept there and went to Slipway and shook hands with children is the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau. Mm-hmm. Liberia should be moving eagerly to establish full diplomatic relations with Canada, making sure that Canadians, Liberian Canadians themselves can exploit the resources in Liberia by developing our country in every diverse way that we need to put it through. We speak to people here. We ask them for assistance. Do you know when you live here in Canada and you have a Canadian passport and you want to travel to Liberia, you have to go to Washington, D.C. or to New York before you can get a visa to go to Liberia. And sometimes you send your passport, it's forever taken at our embassy before you get it. What is wrong? We're establishing full diplomatic relations with Canada. That's the gateway. You have 3 major Canadian companies operating in Liberia. We had a board of directors helping us now, Canadian involved, to build a national learning center that will be used as a library in Liberia. We have contacted all of the leaders in Liberia, from past to present. As I speak to you, I have an emissary in Liberia that just had a meeting with the foreign minister on the same issue. And we can't seem to resolve it. No one seems to read between the lines. So if the government get involved and they are listening to us to say, yes, let's do something, I can tell you, I can assure you that we'll be on the map of developing Liberia in no time. Amen. Because personally, we have connections with people here that when you open the door, we will bring them in. They don't want nothing but just the opportunity to serve our people. Right.
And Mr. Moody, the last time we had the national chairperson of the National Civil Society Council of Liberia here on Focus on Liberia. One of the things we spoke about is having at least a group, it may not be government, but someone in Liberia to coordinate these efforts. Because it looked like we have all the people, but someone or a group or government to harness these resources and coordinate efforts so that we can have the much needed help from the diaspora is not there. Offline, when we were talking, we spoke about, some collaborations like having some form of Liberian LinkedIn, or we have a group that, as you said, that you can have people to collaborate. Say a doctor is researching and then you don't know what to do next. You can post questions, you have people answer. What are some of the things you think about in which that coordination can be done?
Well, the thing is, a lot of the things that Mr. Hina talked about cuts across one major problem. And that problem is a lot of us Liberians, those of us in the diaspora and those in Liberia especially, we do not have the same level of nationalism that other countries, citizens of other countries have. I remember at our independence celebration here, Mrs. Famata Morris Manu, who's the charge d'affaires at the Liberian Embassy, said that we need to take a leaf out of the book of John F. Kennedy. And when he said, it's not about asking what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I think Liberians have never heard that speech. And every time we hear it, we're probably not listening, because we always about what we can get out of Liberia. And it's great that Mr. Hina touched on this whole issue. And my last piece that I wrote in the Bush Chicken for the Independence Day was questioning the president's speech that he gave about the economy, for example. And what he did in that speech, in my opinion, was that he blamed everyone else for Liberia's problems, which fairly, yes, there were things that he said that were true. The price of certain commodities that we export are low, so we can't make much money from it. Donors are not giving us as much money as they used to give, because you've got a lot of right-wing governments in the world, so like Donald Trump and other parts of Europe, where people they're more about themselves and not worrying about others. Now, the fact of the matter is, when people don't care about you as much as that, then you need to care about yourself. And one of the things I proposed in my paper was, look, we need to implement an austerity measure in Liberia where we cut people's salary in government down to the bare minimum. People cannot be earning. I lived in Liberia in 2010 and 11, and I worked with IB Bank as marketing manager, and I wasn't making $2,000 US dollars, and I was living good. I had a good and decent life. I had a personal car that I could drive around in. I could hang out with my friends as regularly as I wanted. I didn't need to be making $10,000 US dollars to live a good life. And it's a crime. I don't see it as anything else but a crime that an individual will make anything more than $5,000 US dollars in Liberia. Anybody that works in should not more than that, because it's a crime, in my opinion. And what I proposed in my last paper that I wrote on the 25th of July was that, look, if you really want to tell the Liberian people to be patient, then you need to take actions that suggest that you're doing things in our look. We can save a lot of money by cutting back on the waste that we have. We pay people too much money, and what do they do with the money when you give them those US dollars? They take them and put them in foreign banks. That's why the rate keeps going up as it is. That's why basic commodities in Liberia, because there's no US dollars in the Liberian economy. People get paid, they take the money and keep it overseas. They get paid, they take the money and keep it overseas. So we're always running out of US dollars in Liberia. And so to find US dollars is so hard. People, like business people who need to buy things in US dollar, have to pay whatever it takes to get US dollars. So it keeps, it's not rocket science. I'm not an economist, but it's not rocket science. I can see what the problem is. And the president expectantly has himself surrounded by individuals who are experts in economics, and they don't understand the dynamics in terms of the country. At the end of the day, look, there are a lot of things that we can do. We need to institute a level of nationalism amongst Liberians. You go to Ghana. I've never been to Ghana before, but people who go to Ghana say, look, the Ghanaians are very nationalistic. They care about their country. They care about each other. Like the Ghanaian person will put a Ghanaian above everyone else. Liberians need to start to think like that. We need to think about how we can get because look, as much as we want to say what we want to say, nobody's going to come to help us. People are fed up. People have given Liberia so much money and we've mismanaged the money that they're fed up. They're not going to keep giving them money. So at the end of the day, we need to do it ourselves. And the only way we can do it, we need to see an honest effort on the part of the people in Liberia who have been duly elected by the Liberian people, duly elected to run the state of affairs. They need to make an honest effort to say, look, you know what? Here are the things that we're doing to show to you guys that we mean business. We're going to chop our salaries down by 75% in some cases. We're going to increase the salary because let me say something to you, Dennis, and we all in here know this. When in the UK, for example, in 2008, when we had a financial crash, the people started to chop the money of the guys at the top because the guys at the top, because they make so much money, they don't spend the money. Take the money from the top and put it at the bottom, the economy starts to do well because I need to eat. So if you increase my salary, I'm going out there to buy food. And when I buy food, the businessman is earning money so he can buy more food. And that's right. Start to go. But the guys at the top, all they're doing with the money is to give them 20,000, they take 15,000 and put it in the bank. They only use 5,000. So at the end of the day, the money is not going in the economy, and that's why the economy is struggling. You don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that. It's very, very simple and basic. We need the effort on behalf of the government. They need to tap into the diaspora. And that's what I said earlier in the program. I'm disappointed that the president came out, and I listened to his inauguration speech, very critically. And, he said, look, we're going to engage with the diaspora. We're going to tap into diaspora. And if you listen to what Mr. Hina is saying, there's a community that is willing to do things to help our people in Liberia. And all we need there is a representation. And you can't, he's been talking from, in Liberia, we can say from Charlie Quintan, he's been talking the thing. Nobody wants to listen.
No one listens.
How do you expect Liberia to go?
Mr. Moody, sometimes that's how I sometimes wonder, right, as to exactly what's going on, because we seem to know what it is, right? Look at Liberian professionals across the globe. So why is it, that we can get to that point? Why is it so hard to know that someone who is a representative, we have one on the show the last time, he makes 10,000, that's a 6-figure, 120,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So in my mind, and what he said is people are focusing on the House or the legislators, but go to finance, people make more than I make. He started saying, go to the other ministries and they make more. So why can't we start from just the first step of putting all our salaries online so that the Liberian people could see? In fact, he was reprimanded by he said he was reprimanded by his colleagues for telling the Liberian people his salary. So, Mr. Hina, what is it that we can't get to that point? Why is it that we can't get to that point of we all recognize the problem, but the next step to resolve it, that's where we are having difficulty? Why is that?
Well, it's because the people, the lawmakers, are dishonest. Dishonesty is what getting us to this. This is why during the campaign, the ANC was trying to get representatives in the House. They even gave money to help them to run the campaign, and everyone had to sign an agreement. If you got elected in the House, you were agreeing to redraw the boundary, cut down salary to as low as 75%. We're going to get livable wage for people to get so that the country will be good. If we have honest people leading our country, leading the charge of the rules and regulations, Liberia will change in the trick of an eye. I can assure you of that. But the willpower to do that, if I am told by somebody, you go to Liberia now, like I'm speaking and they give me a job, and I just went there to say, I want to make sure the salaries are reduced. Focus on salary, like Moody said. If the least man in Liberia can take home pay that he can be happy, he will spend the money. And when he spends the money, the economy will boom. But those people at the top have to be committed to making sure the law is adhered to. That's what happened in these countries. That's what happened in Canada. That's what happened in the UK. That's what happened in the US. If you're a public servant and they will be on your bike on CNN and all of these stations will be talking about you. Not even talking about even just getting the money, just having a girlfriend on the outside rather than at home. You know what kind of trouble you're going to be in. So we need people, honest people, committed people to the development of this country. You put committed people. Sometimes I say in joke, my friends and I were talking, I say if I was the president of Liberia, I would tell the people of Liberia, in 6 months, if you don't see the wheel rolling as the way it's supposed to roll, the king of France was beheaded. Will be the Galantine. You can behead me. I mean, just out of rhetorical thing, I would say. But that's reality. Because I see Liberia as a very small country,
right,
that you can develop in the twinkle of an eye. You give someone who has that country at heart 6 months, you will see the roadmap. You can see the roadmap. I can assure Liberians that if President Weah, at his time right now, gave us in the diaspora, I, Francis Hinna, being among that group, and hearing Moody today, you put us together. The dream and those things he listed, connecting that country from one point to another, by road, by whatever means, transportation, whatever means, to make that country to move in the right direction, we can do that in no time. We can do that in no time. When President Rawlings took over Ghana, it was one of the worst things. What he did was he took charge. Rawlings was in the front to make sure that what he wanted done will be done. You do that, you set the stage, and people move about it. The old Liberian thing, the high is so big, the high is so big. We got to get rid of that.
Right.
And it's sad. It's sad that when we come here and get educated, you go back to give you a government job, then you become worse than the people. We have to change.
So
you know?
how, and we at Focus on Liberia, we try to see if we can be that, be able to create that link among Liberians, because one of the reasons too is we are all educated professional Liberians, but we don't even have that collaboration as to what we can do. So as Liberians, I don't know to what extent you have. First of all, let me ask you if you have any link with other Liberian organizations in other countries. I know, or like, because I believe that even if it is 5 of us who have the same mentality and the same passion, if we come together and find ways and how we can help Liberia and create that blueprint that we can take along. So how can we collaborate as people in different countries? What can we work on? How can we come together? Because we have to, people cannot do what they don't know about. So how can we come together and force what we believe on, and not in a way of violence, but be able to take that to Liberia and be able to enforce it? Mr. Moody, how can we come together to do that?
Well, you and I had a conversation, I think on I think it was Wednesday this week, where we talked about, because I back in 2015, I wrote a paper on the health system in Liberia. And one of the things I suggested in my paper was we need to set up a network of Liberian medical professionals in the diaspora, and in the form of a LinkedIn, but more like a chat room situation where a Liberian doctor in Menikoma, for example, who came across an illness and didn't know how to treat that illness could go onto the chat room and just explain what the illness was. And maybe a doctor somewhere in Australia will be like, oh, I know what that is. It's this, this, this. This is how you treat it. Because obviously they don't have the resources in Liberia. People who have access to those resources can just go and get the information and provide it within a few minutes. That doctor knows exactly what to tell his patient in Liberia. And that's something that costs nothing. You're just talking about all the government needs to do is set up a hosting service where they host a website where members can log in. You have to register your details. You got your login details, and you can just go in there. And I think the way the world works at this particular moment in time is it's after 12 o'clock here. It's 6 o'clock in the US. It's 9 o'clock in the morning somewhere else. And whenever you go on there, someone will be up. Someone will be at work. Someone can provide you the information. And that's one way. But at the end of the day, look, we can do as much as we want to do. And, listening to Mr. Hina and just identifying with some of the frustrations that they're having, which is quite similar to what we have over here as well. The ideas are there. The willingness are there to do what's right and to do something in a positive way to move Liberia forward. The problem is you cannot do anything in Liberia without the support of the Liberian government. There is absolutely nothing because when you go to Liberia, like Mr. Hina, like me, or like yourself, and you go and you and I had a conversation about your book that you wrote, and you took to Liberia a few years ago, and you go there with an idea and say, look, I want to do this thing because it's going to benefit our people. Because you're from a diaspora, from a country outside of Liberia or somewhere in the West, people think that you've gotten so much money from somewhere to come and run a project, whereas you've gone there on your own back. You pay your own to go to Liberia to go and do something to help your own people. Everybody automatically assumes that, oh, this guy has got so much money from that thing, and then everybody wants to chop something, So they put a lot of roadblocks in your way, make it absolutely impossible for you to do anything. And then in the end, we're human beings. You get frustrated and you think, look, my wife and my kids are, in the US or in Canada, wherever I've got, that's my primary responsibility on this earth. I go and look after them.
Yeah.
And because of that, the ordinary Liberian person suffers. Because people like us, willing to come in and help, people assume that we got so much money that we took from wherever, and they don't know how difficult it is to get people money in these countries to come back. They don't know how, and they think that you have the money and it makes things so hard for you. And that is what we can come up with all the ideas. We need the support of the Liberian government. You cannot do anything in Liberia without the government support. And that is the problem. When I'll give you an example. Our president went to Liberia last year. I think earlier this year, to meet with a member of the Liberian government. And I wrote a project proposal that she asked me to write. And the proposal is very simple. It said, look, we want to create a database. Yeah. And this database is going to be of all Liberian professionals in the UK. We want to present that to the Liberian government. And you can tap into that whenever you want. Whether you want advice, whether you need consultants, whether you need people to come and work within institutions just to put systems in place for a period of time and then go back to where they come from. That is something that is very unique and important that Liberian government could tap into. We're still sitting and waiting, months later to hear back from the person. And what can you do? You can't force the situation because the person who has to rubber stamp it, you've already spoken to. So in the person not willing to budge, there's nothing you can do. So the situation is in Liberia and it's with the government of Liberia.
Yeah, sometimes they say that we come from the diaspora and act like we know it all, and kind of don't give them the respect they deserve. They are the one on the ground. They have been holding the territory, and so they say it's our fault.
Well, I don't buy into that because at the end of the day, when I went to Liberia in 2010 and 11, I was working there. I went there with a mentality similar to what Mr. Hina was talking about. My mentality as an individual is an open management mentality where the people I met in my department for the first week in my office, I didn't sign any document. The guy who was running the department before I came in, and when things come, I'll pass it, look, you were here, sign them. I need to learn what's going on here before I can get to taking responsibilities. And not only that, but I run an inclusive, I work as an inclusive manager. You bring people on board, you discuss ideas, And then you pick the good things from each idea and then put it together so that it's a unified and strong idea, because everyone sees things differently. You know, right now you're looking at, you know, us on here, people watching. Some people think, oh, we coordinated the African shirt thing, but it just happened.
No,
you know,
by coincidence, yeah.
yeah, another person would think that, oh no, man, I think it just happened like that. But somebody would think so. People will see things differently, and that's why it's always good to different ideas. You know, so for them to say something like that, my experience from those who have gone back to Liberia and worked there, that's not how people behave. People in Liberia have that, and I talked about it in that paper I talked about. People have this idea that, oh, you know, people come from abroad, they want to come and tell us what to do, they come and take our jobs and da. And it's a syndrome that is embedded in Liberians, and this idea that, oh, we were the ones on the ground during the war, and that's the first thing I shoot down, because I say to people, look, if somebody had given you the opportunity that I got, you were going to leave this country as well. So don't even think that.
All right. There's a question here too. Let me put that to you, Mr. Hina. Dave Jai is saying, what is your relationship with other Liberian organizations in other countries? Do you compare notes and brief others about your strengths and challenges? If not, how can that process get started?
Well, honestly, I've been communicating with individuals who are leading Liberian communities around the world. I'm meeting Mr. Moody for the first time today. In April, I was in Staten Island for the inauguration of the incoming ULO administration. But what I've been doing is, like I'm saying on this show today, educating Liberians and showing to them how passionate I am about the development into Liberia. And I think what we've done on our own is that we have a project running right now in Liberia, as I keep mentioning about the Learning Center. What we want to do is that Learning Center is in the form of library, but it's more than that. Our hope is when we're done with the phase one, which is starting this November, when the construction is done, we're going to have a center in there that professionals from around the world will be able to connect. And I agree with my brother there, Moody, that it's not easy to do anything in Liberia without the Liberian government stamping it. Because it just takes one guy to come there and destroy all of the effort that you guys put in place. So we are coordinating now with leaders from around the world, especially what he has had me connected with people from Europe and other one when it comes to this dual citizenship thing. So we will have to, now that we are connected, we're trying to turn the subjects around to let people understand that we can work together and this thing will be no issue that we can be able to resolve it. But the paramount among our discussion is what can we do to make Liberia a difference? Right. And that's the key that we're moving on to right now. For us in Canada, we are supporting a project to build a learning center in Liberia. And when that learning center is completed, and that's why we are pushing it alongside with establishing a diplomatic relation between Liberia and Canada. As I mentioned to you earlier, you know what it means for the leader of the first world to go in your country and sleep there? It's a signal to the whole world that this place is safe, this place is open, this place is good for business. And I don't know why we don't capture that. When any world, if it was any world leader, whether the British Prime Minister, the Canadian Prime Minister, that does that to your country, they just open a gateway to international cooperation and development. So let's take advantage of that. We will do some in our weak way. Like the brother said, by the time you start advancing in Liberia without the stamp of the government on it, you're done. And one simple mistake, you finish. I've taken people from UK. When I was chair for the refugee camp in Burumburu, I took investors from UK, I took them to Liberia, just to establish their papers to get it done. So they will start educational training all by their own money to just prepare people for it. The guy started and did a studies. How many UN agencies you got in Liberia working? How many of the NGOs? And they did a calculation and said, wow, we need to go and start training Liberians so they can take these jobs.
Right.
So the Carolyn and Liberia were purposely going to establish a resource center to prepare people for job search, workshop training, where they will send resume that will be similar to that which is written here, and start putting Liberians that came from the university, somebody graduated from the University of Liberia, that you can train to go further. But they don't even have the first step on how to engage the job, how to get a job. We wanted to make sure we could engage people in that level. So when the guy sitting here who is trained like me in Canada, when I read your resume, I can read beyond the line that you know what you're talking about. And those guys was guaranteed those jobs. So putting at least up to 1,000 Liberian families that had a good education inside working with the UN or other NGOs and be paid well, you just boom the economy like my brother was just saying there. Because you know how our money trickle down, but there it's like we always develop like a family thing. And I tell you, to just get that institution registered, I'm ashamed to call the names of the people that I went to, I introduced this guy to, but they ended up squandering this people money, over 1,000 British pounds. They had to go back home without having anything successful in that country. So we want, now I've been there before. So the trend we're moving is establishing a system that if Moody carries an investor into Liberia or someone trying to help, whether it's a philanthropist or what, they will have an organization. And that's why the project we're building is not just all Liberia, it's Canadian Liberian. All the funds we have in managing is being managed by Lottery International with a Canadian-based board of directors here, which also I'm a member of. So there's no way that any Liberian or anyone else is going to be on top of the coffers. You do that, we just close it, and you don't find nothing. That's what we don't want. We want it to grow. Right. So that's what we are doing. We're establishing that, and it's going to grow. We brought the mayor for Paisley City here. This year, because of the change, we're not able to get the mayor to come here. He agreed to come, and however the book, the ticket was so late, the program was over before she came. But anyhow, we are still in connection. So that's what we are doing. Yeah. That's, yeah.
Mr. Moody, what are some of the things that your organization doing in Liberia too? And specifically, individual Liberians, how are they, impacting their own towns and villages? If you have that idea. Mr. Hina, who's that beautiful woman behind you?
The pictures you are flashing just now.
Oh, Mazo.
Mazo.
All right. So, what are some of these people involved into their villages? Our organization here, my brother, my family, and I, sometimes we send books to the little junior high school in my hometown. Sometimes we try to get pictures, send up pictures of the books, and then we'll be able to ask for more. We can't get it.
I know. Man.
That's your time, that bully time. No,
I'm not saying to you. I'm talking to you.
Well, the thing is, we trying to coordinate the efforts. That's what we're trying to do. So there are individuals here. So I mentioned Maxine Pacquiao, who lives in Wales, who is doing something on the line of the flood victims in Liberia. He had an organization here called Wales Liberia Connect, and he has been trying to establish a computer institute in Liberia. So he's been collecting computers, trying to get that started. He's been to Liberia a few times. He's taken up the issue of discrimination against people who are disabled in Liberia. There's another Liberian lady in London called Precious Toll, who works with people with albinism in Liberia, and her work is trying to again fight against the stigma that people, in Liberia they call them Jato or something like that. So people, she's trying to fight against the stigma and the discrimination that they undergo in Liberia. As an organization, last year I was in Liberia in May. There is an organization in Liberia called the Kids Education Engagement Program, KEEP, founded by a Liberian lady called Brenda Brewer-Moore. And what she's been doing is building reading rooms across Liberia so that young Liberian children can have an opportunity to read. So in May last year, we signed a memorandum of understanding with KEEP to be their UK arm of the efforts that they're doing in Liberia. So we've been collecting books and coloring books and crayons and chalks and stuff like that to send to Liberia. We launched on the 21st of July our KEEP fundraising drive. So on the 17th of November this year, we're going to be having a fundraiser. Between now and November, we're going to be raising books and other educational items that we're going to ship to Liberia for KEEP. And like I said, previously we've done the food items for the orphanages. We did the Ebola fundraiser previously as well. So in terms of what individual Liberians are doing, I know of a retired doctor, Dr. Velma Troko, who's working to build a school in Lower Montserrado County in Liberia. So she was in Liberia in March this year. I know of another Liberian called Douglas Fangalo, whose wife is started a charity. She's a British lady. She started a charity for Liberian girls. So he took his wife to Liberia to visit, and she felt that young Liberian girls were staying away from school when a certain time of the month came along because they couldn't be amongst their friends because obviously they couldn't afford to buy the things that they need to be able to be amongst their friends at that time of the month. So she came up with this idea of a special pack that she can give to girls, which is reusable. So at that time of the month, you can have, something to be able to allow you to continue to go to school. So obviously she came to the union and we donated some money to that project. One other big thing that we did was in December, we had the Women's Empowerment Conference in London. So we had an international conference in London called, under the theme, This Girl Will Be Great. And we brought 4 Liberian ladies from Liberia who are, one's a medical doctor, one's a CEO of a medical institution, one is the assistant manager for quality at Coca-Cola Liberia, and the other is the programs director at the Tony Blair Institute for Public Administration in Liberia. And the essence of bringing them here was to inspire Liberian women in the UK, to show them possibilities of women who were working in Liberia and doing things to support themselves, to support their communities, and to make a change in the lives of other women. We also invited a professor from here who is head of a law school, and they came, and we all came together. I was actually fortunate to present at the conference as well. And the whole essence of the conference, we got some funding from the British Lottery Fund to run the conference. And it was about showing to women that, look, you can do absolutely whatever it is that you want to do. You can't allow people to tell you, whoever they are, that you can't achieve certain things. And it was a very successful conference. And, we had some great speakers, a lot of good participants. And the hope is that we can probably do a follow-up conference either here or in Liberia to continue to empower women, because obviously we know that, Liberia is a very patriarchal country in the sense that women usually put back a second class. And we want to try and break those barriers for women. So a lot of things that we've done as a group, but then there's, also the examples I gave of individuals who, not just Liberians, but even non-Liberians as well, who are doing things in Liberia, not necessarily within a local, like one village or one town, but something that cut across most parts of the country.
That's very, very encouraging. Mr. Hina, before the show, you were talking about one other Liberian who's Leo, and who's doing great work right there, Liberians. And you also had the beautiful ideas of talking about the coastal highway. You have some ideas about train routes.
Yep.
Talk to me about Leo and also about your ideas of using, railroads.
Yeah. Well, Leo, like all of the ideas, Leo was one of the boys with me on the camp until we came to Canada. He went to my master's university. And the idea of building the library in Liberia today, Leo has successfully established an NGO here now that's called Empowerment Square. Empowerment Square started with a group of friends from the university. They are from different countries. Some were parents migrated to Canada, and then they were born here. He sold the idea to them. They say in Liberia, our educational system, they said we have 27 students to one textbook, and which was very alarming. But the fellows that we encouraged here did not rest. When President Sally came here, we made it our business to support that project, and Leo went to Liberia. Today, the Liberian community, under my leadership, is highly in support of that project. That's what I'm speaking about. And we're going to build a learning center. As I speak to you now, Leo is in South Africa. He went to Liberia, back to Ghana. It took 20 young girls from different cultural background from here in Hamilton. Just recently, they are currently now in Ghana, participating in the West African Women Initiative. Young girls in their 20s, in their 18s, and what have you. And they are mixed up. We have some Liberians and people from other different parts of the world. What we are doing is, like he said, we're working I don't want to say from behind the scene, but working to make sure that government does not see us as a threat. Government should see us as partners.
Right.
Government should see us as partners. And in that way, we are like opening up to them. We have more connections to even friends in the Ghanaian parliament than we have in Liberia. The people from the Ghanaian parliament are willing to help us when we go to Ghana. We get there, like they say, we are home. The former heads of states will buy our idea. Things I did way back then to connect the Liberian government under Julie Bryant with the Ghanaian government. And I mentioned to you, I told President Sally, these young people, if we don't get them tools to work with, they will be turned against us. Like they did in the war, like they did in the election. So we're working on that. We're trying to collaborate the relationship between the young people here and the young people back in our country, even whether they're in the refugee camp still or they're in Liberia, to correlate their relationship so that we can be able to see, we can be able to break that barrier. And that notion that when you come from here, you are being paid by somebody to go, and then that's the money you have because you stop in the hotel and all that kind of stuff. We want to change that dynamic. We want to change their mind. Let them understand that it's just hard work and determination that we can result into something that we're doing there.
And the railroad.
The railroad is the most simple thing that you can do for any developing country. The United States, Canada, and Great Britain, in fact, for the British, they are not even left it. Today, people live in Belgium, they drive to go to Britain to go to work. It is easy. In fact, I would say 85% of Liberia is already connected by rail. There is a railroad survey between Monrovia and Mana River. There's a railroad between Bombay Hills and Monrovia. There's a railroad between Bon Mines and Monrovia. There's a railroad between Yekepa and Buchanan. So you might be thinking like maybe Sino, Grand Jeda, and maybe Buchanan to Monrovia. That's all you got left. You can connect all the major cities in Liberia right now by rail. And like I said, you start the survey. Those areas that are already done, all you're going to be putting will be the infrastructure in. Those that don't have a survey, that never had a line before, that's why you have the surveyors running the line to put it through to go. The cost to build one bridge for the train to go over, it'll be like almost 75 times less than the cost to build one bridge for cars to run on top of. But no one thinking about that. And it'll be fast, and you have the country connected, and you can carry as much good as you can carry from one point to another. When you connect Liberia by rail from one point to another, you will come to realize one glass in Monrovia for 50 cents will probably be sold in Harper for maybe 45 cents. Because that is very possible. The reason, when they ring, look on the internet and see how people struggle to get their things from one point to another. It's so difficult. Why are we wasting their time? We can develop that country in no time just by using our mentality. All those big iron ore trains they used to bring from Bon Mines to go to they won't put it on trucks. And that's how this country was built. That's how Canada was built. That's how United States was built. That's how Britain, in fact, the British and the European have even intensified there. They have made it more efficient now. They put, very classified kind of train. China, between Beijing and Singapore, it should be several 100 miles you got to go by plane. Today, the train can just take you there in no time. Why are we leaving behind? Ethiopia is now using the train system. So that can save Liberia infrastructure, transport infrastructure very fast, and it's easy to do, very easy to do. So I hope the government is listening. If they really want to get the country out of poverty, on opening up the country, let's use the railroad system. When that is done effectively, you want to drive your car in Vonyama, you can put your car on the train. When you get to Vonyama, you drive around Vonyama town. And you're ready to come back and put it, but you'll not be suffering on the road. There will be no rainy season, no dry season. Transportation will be efficient every time. You look at John left.
Yeah, it looked like he dropped off. I think we just gave him a few minutes to come back on.
Okay. I leave my pig in some water. Put ice inside for me. Yeah, so where you live in Britain? You in London town, you say? in the city of London?
No. I'm in Wales.
Okay.
A small town in Wales called Aberystwyth.
Oh, okay. Okay.
West Coast. Just finishing off my PhD.
Okay, well, that's good.
And move back to England.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I studied local government, and right now I work with one of the local municipalities here. I'm the manager for records management and election assistance, and all the municipalities in Ontario, about 444 municipalities. So the AMCTO, which stands for the Association of Municipal Clerk and Treasurers, they put a system for record management to be electronic, that anybody can just click on the bylaws and get it.
Yeah.
And from 2001 until now, only about 190 of them has implemented that.
Oh.
So the one I'm doing right now, when it's done, that municipality will be like 191. That will be yes. And look, I'm doing that for the developed country. I can do that for Liberia, you know.
Okay. Guys, you can hear me?
We hear you. Where you went? You want to eat?
No, we had a technical problem, so we are good now.
Okay.
All right. So we are the curtain is drawing down. So let's go back. I want to hear your final comments. I know you were just finished your thought, Mr. Hina. So we can your final statements.
Okay, I was just giving an analysis of why the rail system. I said 85% of Liberia already had railroads. From Mana River to Monrovia, you know, they used to have the Mana River Iron Ore Mining Company. They ran a track there. From Bowman Hills, they had a track running there. From Bowman, there's a track running. From Yekepa to Buchanan, there's a track running. So the very small portion of the country that left to be resurveyed or surveyed to even run a track. Our soil in Liberia is very loose. But a train system will work effectively for Liberia. And there will be no rainy season or no dry season. It will move any day, and you'll move goods and services from one point to another with ease. In fact, you will reduce the population in Monrovia to nothing. When people know they don't have to take 1 week to leave from Monrovia to go to Ikepa or to go to Harper. There are people in Monrovia that the war brought there, people in Beaumont, people in these places, if they can move effectively. In fact, the people show the sample right now in Nimba. The railroad that stay there, they put kind of little scanty bucket on it, and they're moving their goods and services from one point to another. They don't even have to go on the motor road. Same as Beaumont. They put the charcoal in the train bucket that is iron always be, and they push it and they roll it down to Monrovia. So that bucket they push in, if I was just able to put one locomotive on it and pull it for them, I'm providing easy transportation to them. So it's right before our eye. You just have to open your eye to see it, and we can do better in Liberia. We had to put our greed aside. And I like to think like the farmer. A good farmer never eat the seeds. A good farmer will starve, but he will plant the seed, and then he will harvest in abundance. And that's the mentality we need to have in Liberia. When the people were looking for money, herdmen went from one place to another. Wherever they find the grass, they put their goat, their sheep to eat. The day they sat down at Mesopotamia and started farming, cities started from there. We got to put a heart of farmers in. Let's start eating the seed and plant the seed. Then we'll get more money. People want to be paid $10,000 or $15,000 in Liberia. Let's use what we have now and develop Liberia. And then we'll be paid $15,000 and $20,000, and nobody will notice it. That's my advice.
That is completely correct. Next week, we're going to have the national president of the Liberian Swedish Association. That's Mr. Francis Momo Mensah. He will be on the program as we continue our series, Liberian Communities Around the Globe. And guess what? Who we having again? From Ukraine. Can you believe we have a community there?
Oh, my God.
The executive member of Mr. Prince A.B. Newland. He's the member of the Liberian Student Association in Ukraine.
Wow.
We have a fellow reaching out to us from Japan. He's a rice specialist. So we're going to have him, as time goes by, to tell us about rice production, what we can do. You know, the talents
Wow.
Liberians around the world is just phenomenal. All we need to do is get our acts together and take our rightful position as Liberians to lead not just Africa, but the world.
Thank you.
It's possible.
Yes.
Mr. Moody, let me hear your final thoughts as we close down our broadcast tonight.
Well, first of all, Dennis, I would like to say thank you for having me here with Mr. Hina. It's been a pleasure. I think for me personally, talking about Liberia is always a joy. That I something I love to do. Whether it's talking, with my voice or whether it's talking with my pen, either way, I love doing it because at the end of the day, you hope that someone's going to listen and implement some of the suggestions that we have, so that we can all be proud of the country that we have. I think the platform that you present you have here for Liberians is very good, and I think we should make use of it. I want to commend you and the team for the hard work that you're doing, and I pray that you guys will keep it up and expand. And wherever you believe that some of us can be of help in trying to expand the message that you're doing, then obviously we hope that you can tap into that because we love the country so much. We love the people from the country, and we want to see everything work well for all of us.
Thank you. And we that's exactly our prayer. We want to be the platform to at least the first connect Liberians, because there are just so many Liberian brains around the world. We want us to first come together as people using this very platform, connecting these people so that we can all brainstorm, even if that's a think tank, if that's we have 5 person brainstorming solutions and see what we can do together, because there is so much that we can do. Someone told me, say, like before, Liberians were even divided along our food we eat. If you were swallowing GB, you were considered Gio. If you like palm butter, you were considered Gribble. If you had Kwasayama, you're from Cape Town. He said, but now, still Pele present swallowing fufu, just like from Buchanan. You can see the crowd now eating GB. So gradually we are coming together, and you will not believe it. And so whatever it takes that we can do as people, let's do it. Mr. Melvin Martin said, Mr. Hina, is a great idea for Liberia to introduce the train system. In fact, China wants to connect the entire world by railroad.
Yeah.
Mr. Abraham Fofana say, hello, compatriots. I listened to you guys briefly. I wish to commend you. However, the head of Liberians in the Netherlands and concerned patriotic Liberians in the diaspora fully recognized by our Dutch government. Mr. Fofana, I hope that this wouldn't be another black money group like ULA and the so-called EFLA. Well, Mr. Heelan said, he's kind of looking at, I believe he's playing the devil advocate, that you mean what you're saying. And Mr. Fofana, we all depend on your expertise, your advice, and your connection so that we all can come together, because no one has that silver bullet. As I said before, we all like our pieces of puzzles. We have everything it takes. All we need to do is to put the pieces together and move Liberia forward to be that glorious land of liberty we all sing about. Mr. Hina, your final comments.
Well, I first of all want to thank you for this opportunity. And I hope Liberians all over Canada today are watching this channel and listening to what we have to say here. And if we never had the opportunity to speak to you one-on-one, and we want to thank you for this platform. We hope that this message is not just going to stop here. We'll continue to work together, and everything we're professing here that we believe in, that it can come to fruition in Liberia. I am of a strong opinion that Liberia can rise, like the singers will say, but we need to put our hands around it and make Liberia rise. I'm a member of very different organizations, and I make sure I go there with the same message. Our message is we're not staying here. We have to move forward. I've spoken to leaders in our country, and they all can bear me. That every time I say to them, it's like a prophet. I say, if you don't do this, this thing's going to happen. But I want to thank you especially for this opportunity to be able to speak, to be able to get our voices across to our people. Thank you, and I'm always willing to be here. If you need me, I will come and join your company again. And thank you so much. Thank you very much.
We need every hand on deck so that we can do this. This idea was conceived by 2 or 3 persons, and we want every Liberians to, we can all join hands to move forward. Our intentions, things that we want to do, they're all there. We rely on all Liberians. Let's come together, put our ideas together, and move our country forward. I want to thank you so much, gentlemen, for accepting to be here. I want to thank you so much that for all the ideas you've expressed. Is our hope. This is going to be archived in our repository. We're going to have this on YouTube almost forever so that people can tap into it. Please share the video, invite others to listen to this. And we want, at the end of the day, that all these beautiful ideas, some of the gatekeepers in our country hear that, and that we can do something about it so that we don't sound like that proverbial broken record anymore. We want people to utilize this and do something with it. I want to thank all those watching us from our live Facebook across the globe. We want to thank you so much for your time, those who contributed, those who post comments, questions, and everything. We appreciate that. Without you, we have no focus on Liberia. In a special way, I want to thank my guest relations manager, Madam Stephanie Setro. I know she communicated with you guys. We are lucky to have her. And we want to say again, thank you so much. Next week, Sunday, please tune in. We'll have the guy from Ukraine and also from Sweden. They will be here and doing exactly so that we can learn about other communities around the globe, Liberian communities. We're even going to go across to Ghana and Nigeria, and still you have some of your brothers you left on Bujumbura. They are still there. We want to hear their thoughts on how we can move this country forward. Until then, from all of us here at Focus on Liberia, I want to say again, thank you so much. May God richly bless you. Continue to do what you're doing for our country. Wrong by wrong, we will get there. I really believe it with all my heart that with guys like you and other Liberians across the globe, we have all it takes to make Liberia what it's supposed to be. And with God's above, we will definitely get there. Thanks again, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it